modernist epistemology. Modernist epistemology. So modernist epistemology is basically, there are three aspects to it: empiricist epistemology, and then rationalist. And obviously there are many schools which combine empiricism and rationalism. And within empiricism, there are different conceptions of empiricism, and within rationalism, there are different conceptions of rationalism. And also then there is scientific epistemology, which is not entirely different from empiricist and rationalist epistemology, but empiricist and rational epistemologies develop within philosophy, within the discipline of philosophy. On the other hand, scientific epistemology, especially after scientific revolution, that developed within different particular sciences and within the interdisciplinary practices within those sciences. So when philosophers of science theorize about scientific epistemology, that's a different thing, but we're talking about practice. So it shares a lot of things with empiricism and rationalism, but there's much more to scientific epistemology than just empiricism and rationalism. So these three, and obviously then there are people who try to combine 1, 2, and 3. I'm talking here only at the conceptual level, at the level of possibility. So I don't have in mind any specific schools or thinkers, but if I have to come up with names, I can, But while I'm developing this distinction, I'm not thinking of those things. Now, since we have developed this classification, let's talk about a bit about each of them. So what is modernist, what is epistemology, what is empiricism, what is rationalism, and what is scientific epistemology, in just very precise and very in a summary fashion. We'll try not to go into detail, but even though we can't promise. So modernism is civilization and ideology. It is a different thing which replaces Christian civilization and worldview in Europe. And the basic difference is that the sources of knowledge for Christianity is revelation is the highest source of knowledge. And obviously then there's senses, and nobody denies that, and reason. But especially in metaphysical and conceptions of the meaning of life and the total guidance about life, revelation is the supreme source, and senses and reason basically serve revelation. On the other hand, for modernism, sources of knowledge are basically senses and reason. And then there are different conceptions of senses and reason. And either modernists reject revelation, or they interpret revelation according to knowledge based on senses and reason. So that's the basic meaning of modernism. Now, epistemology. What is epistemology? Let's look at the dictionary meaning first. Now, epistemology is derived from Greek. So episteme in Greek mean episteme. And logos mean study or word. So you will find logi like biology, physiology. So that just means study. Episteme mean basically knowledge. And that's the word which Aristotle uses. A lot of people translate it as science. And science obviously is a Latin word which they used to translate episteme. But today we mean, with science, we don't just mean knowledge, we mean something specific. That's why that's not a good translation. But episteme mean knowledge. And this word comes from a Greek word, verb, to know or how to know, etc. So that's epistemology. Epistemology is study of knowledge. Knowledge in the sense that what is knowledge and the sources of knowledge. So what happens with modernity is not just the I just talked about sources of knowledge, but that just reminded me to add that modernity, what is knowledge is also, definition of knowledge, what is knowledge, is also change. And basically, knowledge is most of the time what we call information, for example. And number two, sources of knowledge. And sources of knowledge and their veracity and which sources are better and any contamination in those sources. And then obviously when you talk about knowledge and sources of knowledge, so you bring up the issue of any suspicion about those sources. So skepticism is a big thing in modernism. One of the things about modernism is skepticism become the source of or central epistemological problem, because modern epistemology starts with skepticism about what was before, skepticism about Christianity, skepticism about revelation and its veracity, skepticism about scholastic notion of knowledge, skepticism about all that was before, and then obviously it stays on. And in fact, Descartes uses skepticism to arrive at a point of absolute certainty. So that's a strange thing about modernity, that it has skepticism and absolute certainty. So people think that they are something different, but no, skepticism and the view of absolute certainty are intermingled together. And a lot of people today, among Muslims as well, become misled by this, because in fact skepticism at the basis of knowledge is a modernist conception. You won't find even in Greek where skepticism started, at least historically. You won't find it in Christianity. You won't find it in Islam, despite people trying to read Imam Ghazali with Cartesian lenses. Skepticism doesn't have priority, neither in Greek philosophy nor in Christian scholasticism nor in Islamic ilm kalam. And also absolute certainty is also a very modernist conception. You don't have that in Greek philosophy. You don't have that in Christianity. You don't have, as far as I know anyway, you don't have that in Islamic ilm kalam. So when people try to reinterpret yaqeen, for example, as absolute certainty, then that's totally alien conception they're trying to impose on Islamic epistemology and on Quranic words, for example. Okay, so these are the main conceptions.